It's okay. So now, Mehta, I'm starting this session.
Yes, please start.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you for your patience. Myself, Munmun Datta, faculty member, Department of Psychology of Gokhale Memorial Girls College. Welcome you all, the distinguished speaker, faculty members, students attending from different parts of the country. Right now, we are all experiencing a different time. And in this difficult period, we as an organizer, we really feel glad, honored that over 500 participants registered for this 2 day of webinar. But we are unfortunate as well that because of these technological limitations, we have to restrict the intake capacity. Though we have tried to we are using YouTube live streaming so that we can reach to all the willing participants who couldn't register. So now, with no delay, now I would like to request our Honorable Principal Madam, Dr. Otoshi Karpa, to inaugurate and deliver the welcome address. Madam, is over to you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm sorry for the delay, but that was just this internet issues, technological issues, which we very often face, especially in our country. Sometimes it's very weak and we can't, even if we want, we can't join. So, however, better late than never. I welcome you all to this 2-day national level arranged by the Department of Psychology of Gokhale Memorial Girls College. A small virus, COVID-19, it has brought a number of changes in our daily life, in a daily routine all over the world. Now, seminars have changed to webinars for exchange of views, academic views, for exchange of talks, for exchange of academic views. In the transition regular office days to our quarantine days, we have adopted a set of enduring changes, and the most important of them is the adaptation to technology. Just by a mouse click, the students and the teachers, this is only the positive part of this lockdown, that just by a mouse click, we are now able to listen to the noble audience, to eminent speakers from all over the country. Thus, technology has helped us to stay together in spite of all alienating forces of the society. We are forced to stay together. We are forced to be ourselves in the house. But in spite of that, for that, our this physical health and mental health are not in good conditions. The society is going through a very wretched condition of the all over the world, I should say. The society is facing this problem, and thanks for that, this psychological department of my college, who has given a stress on this biopsychology of pandemic and psychological and philosophical perspective of death anxiety. This rate and the anxiety has increased a lot. This we can know from the social media. And thanks to Dr. Manush Kumar Mondol and Professor Anup Dhar for agreeing to speak to us on this very important topic, which will not only, if our mental health is not in good condition, our physical health will also not be, we will also be facing such problems. And so, again, I thank the speakers and the participants for their overwhelming interest in this field. And I hope today's lecture will be of great interest, and will be able to, what should I say, will be able to improve our mental and physical health at the same time. Thank you all. Let us get into the main topic.
Thank you, Madam. It is now my great pleasure to introduce Professor Dr. Manush Kumar Mondol, our first speaker for the 2-day webinar titled Death, Anxiety and the Contagion, biopsychological and philosophical insights. Now, Dr. Mandal is currently serving as Distinguished Visiting Professor at IIT Kharagpur. He is also an adjunct professor at the National Institute of Advanced Studies, IIT Bangalore. He was formerly a distinguished scientist and Director General Life Sciences in DRDO. Prior to this, he was Chief Controller R&D Life Sciences DRDO. He was also the director of Defense Institute of Psychological Research for about 9 years. He holds a PhD degree from Calcutta University and started his career as a lecturer at Banaras Hindu University in 1983. Dr. Mano completed his postdoctoral research at Delaware University at Fulbright, USA in 1986-87 and at Waterloo University as an International Scientific Exchange Award in Canada in 1993-94. Dr. Mandal was a professor of psychology at the Department of HSS IIT prior to joining the DRDO. He was also professor at Kyushu University in Japan in 1997 and 2010-11. During 2003, he was a Fulbright visiting lecturer at Harvard University, USA. Dr. Mandal received various research fellowships and awards at national and international levels, such as Indo-Canadian Shastri Fellowship, Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council of Canada Award, Fulbright Fellowship USA, etc. Dr. Mandal in 2005 and his team were given away Agni Award for Excellence in Self-Reliance for the contribution towards the development of computerized pilot selection system for Air Force. For his overall contribution to psychological sciences, he was elected as the Fellow of National Association of Psychology in India in 2012, and for his contribution to military psychology, he was given away the Technology Leadership Award by the Defense Minister of India and the Scientist of the Year Award by the Prime Minister of India in 2006. Dr. Mandal specializes in the areas of neuropsychology and cognitive sciences. He has to his credit 14 books, over 100 research papers in international and Indian journals of high repute. These researches are cited in more than 300 international journals and books with over 5,000 citations. Thank you. And once again, I welcome you all. We are privileged, sir, that you have given your valuable time to us. So now, with no further delay, I will now request all the participants to kindly mute your microphone and switch off your cameras. And if you have any questions, observations, or comments, please convey through the chat box. And after the talk, if time permits, then we will select few questions for further discussion. Okay, now we would love to hear from Dr. Mandal on the topic titled Biopsychology of Pandemic Anxiety. Sir, it's over to you now.
Thank you. I must begin straight away because we are not very sure about the technology, how long will it stay, as the principal has just said. First of all, I'm privileged personally to be amongst you today because very rarely I get an opportunity to talk to my students and colleagues in different parts of the country, simply because I was more engaged with the armed forces, Army, Navy, and Air Force. Now that in past few years I can do that, and one such occasion is today. So thank you once again for getting me here. What I'm going to do to all of you, let me first tell you that the topic is biopsychology of pandemic anxiety. Now, biopsychology of pandemic anxiety, when I say, there are two things to be remembered. I'll talk primarily about the neuroscientific part of it. And the second thing is about neuroscience of mass anxiety. That is, I'm going to talk about pandemic within the pandemic. That is, I'm not going to talk about COVID-19. I'll be talking about the pandemic within the pandemic, which is pandemic anxiety. So basically, this should be my area. And I would like to share my screen first. And with that, I would like to take things forward. So first of all, let me tell you that almost all of us are in a condition of lockdown, and we are confined to a tight space or a given set of time. Honestly speaking, none of us has experienced this condition, and today we are experiencing. So it's an opportunity for the students in psychology to take it forward, the psychology of confinement. What really happens when you are confined to a particular space over a period of time? And then when you find the time is not moving, while the actual time or real time is actually moving. What really happens at that point of time? So while I talk about the pandemic within the pandemic, that is pandemic anxiety, let us be very clear that I am not going to talk to you anything related to origin of COVID-19 or the pathophysiology of it or the epidemiology of it, neither the diagnostics of it nor the treatment of it. Then what is that I am going to do? What I'll be talking to you is basically about how this pandemic anxiety within the masses are moving and increasing. It's not a topic which is destined primarily for psychologists. Any branches of sciences can actually access to this point of information. Therefore, I have made it more non-clinical and more layman type rather than trying to become theoretical and very academic type. So with this introduction, let me tell you that I have a roadmap for you. The roadmap is what I'm going to talk to you is about what is all that we have been thinking collectively, as the principal madam has just mentioned about it, that it has changed our life. And when we say our life, we talk about everybody. While the psychologists are bogged down with an individual, today we have got no liberty, neither have the leisure to concentrate only on the individual. We have to look at the masses, we have to look at the society. Therefore, we have to make a contribution to the society. A psychologist has a great role to play, and I would like to tell what is the neuroscientific aspect behind it. And at the end of it, what I'll be telling certain do's and don'ts during this period so that we can stop this pandemic anxiety. I'd like to finish my talk first, and then I'd like to take up your questions. But at the same time, let me also tell you that while I talk about this pandemic anxiety and the neuroscience behind it, let us try to follow the pictures that will come along with the text that I'm going to show it to you. Because every slide has been made self-explanatory with the photographs. So with this note, let me first tell you what are the questions that we all have in mind. As we all know, we are confined to a particular space. And the confinement of a particular space is actually creating a lot of cohabitation stress. And this cohabitation stress or proximity stress we have never encountered in our lifetime. And we are actually asking too many questions, and we do not have too many people around us to ask this question because we are in lockdown. But the feeling is that probably we are being in the lockup. So how do we express all these questions? Psychologically, it is very important. The first question everybody is asking, how long will it last? Because we have a problem with the tolerance of ambiguity. We can't keep our body, our mind in an ambiguous state. Therefore, we have to ask this question when it is going to end and when we can return to our biological set point or psychological set point. People are also asking what might happen if there is an attack, what will happen? So we are questioning the uncertainty that if there is a problem, where do I go to test myself? Today, of course, a lot of information is being disseminated and our anxiety has slightly gone down. Where should I go? How should I go? Will I be infected? Some people have developed contamination obsession. Nothing is written in the book about contamination obsession, but today we have developed a new feature. Am I getting some symptoms? So people have started realizing and trying to give extra attention towards themselves. Even if with a minor cough and cold, people have started thinking, probably I am getting something related to upside, contamination. Is the next door neighbor a virus carrier? So we have developed social paranoia as well. So we have started looking at everybody. Yesterday, someone in my neighborhood was a good friend of mine. Today, I don't even talk to him. So social distancing is also creating a sort of social disembodiment, social disengagement. How do I deal with it? Is there a respite anytime soon? So since there is no such answer coming up, we are getting mood swings. People are not getting any respite from all these things over a period of time for the last 3.5 months. So all these things are bound to come. With this, let me tell you that when such thing happens, why mass anxiety takes place? Because we are all interested in understanding individual anxiety. Now you try to understand how mass anxiety takes place, because my interest is not to tell you about individual's anxiety. My interest is to tell you how psychology can be made deliverable, how we can help masses at one go, being the professional in the field. Those who are in the field of psychology, they will understand that our subconscious trait actually transmits through ambiguity and uncertainty. As I said, we question uncertainty, and the ambiguity and uncertainty actually breaks down our critical sense. Our intelligence is lowered. And since there is a breakdown of reasoning, it actually induces somatization. That is, the moment I don't find answer to a question and I feel that my critical sense has gone, then I try to somatize it, like something like hysteria or something like conversion. So when I somatize it, the moment I get little fever, or the moment I get a little headache, I start thinking probably I'm going to get contamination. Therefore, my anxiety level goes up. And when everybody starts thinking in the same line, the anxiety transmits via mass pattern. This is called collective whispering. So we are collectively whispering, and each one of us are thinking in this similar manner, but not talking to each other. One has to sense this collective whispering, and from there, they must understand how panic is going on. Now, what are the expressions of mass panic? I'll not explain in great detail about these photographs, but you can quickly understand it. Rather, I'll try to devote more time in something else. First of all, Stockholm syndrome. Stockholm syndrome means this panic buying, actually. You stock everything back home. I just saw in the news, Yahoo News, that in Calcutta there is a rumor that once again there is a tight lockdown. So everybody is going for panic buying. So panic buying is one of the expressions of our anxiety, mass anxiety. Xenophobia had started, not restricted to India. The Black Lives Matter, the BLM, has also come up. You see in America, whatever has been happening, don't think that it has only linked to, it has a link only to, George Floyd. From George Floyd, actually, it has come at a peak of a moment when there is collective anxiety everywhere. So the anxiety did spread in such a manner that everybody got affected in the process. So xenophobia has started. Who is black? Who is white? Who is from this religion? Who is from other religion? Who is from this territory? Who is from other territory? Domestic violence has also come up in a big way. But let us not think that this is restricted to only collective anxiety. This is a shadow pandemic going on. Today it has come up in a big way. Even UN has to actually intervene to stop such kind of domestic violence. And public apathy. You see, after seeing several dead bodies, we are not developing empathy. You see, the bodies that I have shown is from Brazil. Hundreds of and thousands of bodies are being buried, and we are not at all moving. So, as if we have developed a neural fatigue, that is, our empathy is not actually going up. So, a public apathy or moral disengagement has also come up. You see, mass mood swing is another thing. That is, a lot of people are experiencing mood swing, that is dysphoria, mild depression, anxiety, because they are locked in a space. They are locked in time. Therefore, mood swing is quite obvious. Stigmatization, mob lynching, of course, we have been saying everywhere that this is an expression of collective anxiety or mass anxiety. And that is happening everywhere. Magical thinking. A lot of people have been discussing about this pandemic cure. What is that we can do? Some people are speaking about ginger. Some people are talking about remdesivir. Some people have been talking about hydroxychloroquine. Some people have been talking about dexamethasone. I mean, everything is magical today. Nothing is proven. But we are all believing that something will happen, and the supernatural cure we have been looking at. So collective whispering is happening through mass media, through social media. Collective whispering is taking place. And as a result of which, just to subside our anxiety level, in order to see that others are having more anxiety, we are making collaborative lies. So collaborative lies put together along with collective whispering is generating a collective or mass anxiety or mass panic. Let us try to understand why does this happen. Now this is slightly academic part of it, because we have understood how pandemic expression is taking place. Now if you follow the photograph says that the tiger and the deer, I mean a herd of deer is actually rushing because a tiger is trying to catch hold of a prey. Now we know that evolution has hardwired the animals to share traits and fears with others. What is happening today, try to link it with that. If I am fearful, you will find that others are also getting fearful. So in the morning when we talk to each other and greet each other, hello, good morning, and with a smile, we generate happiness, a smile in everybody. Trait is also similarly like that. It has its own contagion effect. And the effect goes up when you find that the panic is with your next of kin. That is, if I am panicked, my son would be much more panicked. So human beings are more sensitive to panic, especially by our kid. And it has been found that to generate this kind of panic and fear, the entire biological process is automatic and unconscious. Those who are from biology side, they will understand why it is. I'll come in the next couple of slides, why it is automatic. And those who are in psychology, they will understand why unconsciously this thing hears up. Once it comes up, it is very hard to control. So once you smile, you don't just make it switch on, switch off. So if you are anxious, you can't just switch off by any technique. Therefore, it will persist with us for some time. So let us see how the brain works, because I'm supposed to talk to you about the neuroscience part of it. Brain is hardwired to respond threat. I mean, we know brain is the mechanism, brain is the seat or locus where every feeling enters. And let me also tell you, if any feeling enters into brain, it will be processed and it will find an expression in the body. The expression may be emotional, non-emotional. If it is emotional, it may be happy, sad, fear, anger, surprise, disgust, whatever. It is bound to find some expression in the body. So any thought that enters into our mind must find an expression, and the medium is through brain. Now, amygdala, we all know, those who are in the subject matter, detects the stimuli associated with the danger. But the moment you see that there is a tiger in front of you or a snake in front of you, the amygdala lights up. And how it lights up, I'll tell you what is the mechanism to detect it in the next slide. But let us first try to understand that it detects automatically and it forwards the signal to hypothalamus and brainstem to coordinate a flight response. Now, this is very basic to us. Let us all try to understand that fight and flight are more basic than our ability to cognize, perceive, and sense even. Because if there is a tiger, you don't try to see what is the distance of that tiger from you, or you don't try to logically construct the situation through cognition. You actually first create some kind of reflex or reactive answer or reactive property with your peripheral system of the body. And then such a response causes panic for other members, not initiated by the threat. So if I am afraid for a particular reason, for snake, for example, in my campus, there are a lot of snakes. If I'm running, people would not be panicked because of the snake. They would be running because I am running. Why this old man has been running? So they actually imitate the behavior of the terrified members. And if they are kith and kin, if they are my family members, they will even be more terrified. So I'm trying to link how mass anxiety takes place and what is the biology behind it from individual organisms. So members as a whole pick up on the panic and act accordingly. So what really happens, whosoever is there in, beside or around me, they will pick up the panic and will act accordingly. Therefore, let us try to understand if I am expressing any kind of fearfulness or panic in public place, then others are bound to be affected because it's very contagious. Now, there is a technique how we understand it, that how amygdala picks it up. This technique, you must have heard about magnetic resonance imaging. And one advanced part of magnetic resonance imaging is called functional magnetic resonance imaging. The purpose of this system is to understand the functional architecture of the brain. So if I want to learn which part of the brain actually gets lights up, I can easily check it. When you do maths, if I want to see which part of the brain is actually activated right now, I can easily see it. Of course, we have to pay some money and then you can always go and check it, which part of the brain is getting activated. This whole procedure is called functional MRI. How it works? It works with this biology behind it. A little understanding of biology will help you. That the moment we have a thought, there is a neural fire. As I said, it lights up. There's a neural fire. The moment there is a neural fire, the oxygen in that neuron is depleted. The moment the oxygen is depleted, nearby capillaries in the brain will open and the blood will rush in to compensate for that area. When the new blood comes into the deoxygenated area, you get two kinds of blood therein. One is oxygenated or magnetized, other is deoxygenated or demagnetized. This demagnetized and magnetized blood is actually captured through a magnet. That's why it is called functional magnetic resonance imaging. The moment it is captured in the magnet, it is reflected in the computer screen and you can easily understand which part of the brain is getting activated. So when you do an experiment, you can easily understand that if you are showing a fearful face and a happy face versus neutral face, you can easily understand which part of the brain is getting activated. You see, the last column, the last row, it is the person is seeing happy and neutral faces. Nothing is getting activated. But when you are seeing fearful and happy faces, you will find that the amygdala is getting lighted. Is getting stimulated. So the fearful and neutral face, this is the neutral face, and it's not lighting up. And these are all fearful faces. So what really happens, the moment you see a fearful face, your amygdala reacts. The moment your amygdala reacts, your brainstem and hypothalamus reacts. The moment your hypothalamus reacts, your endocrine functions also reacts. and your endocrine function reacts, you start running because the body is by that time is prepared for a flight response, that is fleeing response. So this is biologically connected, and it happens in such a manner that there are two circuits in the brain. One circuit is at the amygdala level. Those who are in the biological psychology, they will understand. One is at the limbic system level, where the amygdala is placed. So the moment you see a face, you are panicked, and the quicker circuit is the amygdala circuit. But then there is another circuit from amygdala, it goes to cortex, which is a slower one. Now the slower one takes time and it inhibits the panic because you start realizing whether I should really get panicked or not. This happens with our anger response as well. I mean, when we are extremely angry, our mothers used to say, I'm sure your mothers also will be saying, that count 1 to 10. What does it mean? That 1 to 10 allows that connectivity or stimulation from amygdala to reach up to cortex, where it would be inhibited and rationalized. So these two circuits actually are acting for all of us. Therefore, we don't react everywhere. But what really happens? When you are surrounded by a set of panicked people, your amygdala reaction will not be stopped, because you see, every time you see a person, the amygdala is getting reacted. And what really happens? That when everybody's amygdala is reacting, there is no chance that the stimulation goes up to the higher level of the brain, inhibited, and get a rational idea behind it, why we are getting it. And if the crowd is interactive type, then the anticipatory anxiety goes further on. That is, if everybody is individually panicked, I'll still not be panicked. But if everybody is talking to each other about pandemic anxiety or about COVID-19, then it becomes an interactive crowd. So in interactive crowd, the amygdala's panic becomes much more stimulating. So the theory behind, the psychological theory behind is say that we react not only because the amygdala, because amygdala is responsible for fear and anger, that is fight and flight response. Any emotion that you show, it is actually compels us to imitate it. So if you are smiling, I'm supposed to smile. Maybe forcibly I've been smiling, but I'm supposed to smile and I'll be forced to smile. So there is an area in the brain close to premotor area. I'm not going to tell in detail. These are called, there are some neurons called mirror neurons. That is, they actually mirror the activity of others. All forms of social interaction are based on the stimulations of the mirror neuron. Those who are interested about it, they can read the work of Rizzolatti, an Italian physiologist who worked with the monkeys in order to prove how it works, and V.S. Ramachandran, who is also a very stalwart in the field. They have actually worked with mirror neuron in order to experimentally prove that even if you don't feel, your expression comes up. So observation of an action automatically triggers stimulation of that action. So you will find that it is not only true for the emotional conditions, even in non-emotional expressions also, we have a tendency to mirror each other. So if you are standing, I am sitting, I'll not find it very comfortable to talk to each other. It's called postural echo. So with mirror neuron, we try to imitate each other so that we understand and get a greater interaction between the two sides of the brain. See this photograph. If you are yawning, I am sure others will also yawn. This is found in nearly 90 to 95% of the cases. If you yawn, others will also yawn. And it is found in every species, So mirror neuron actually also helps to mirror your emotional reactions. So when a crowd of people are there, they're all panicked, we try to mirror each other. And there is a neurocognitive model for it. And this neurocognitive model suggests that there is a automatic mimicry, that our unconscious sharing or synchrony of the expressions. We have to maintain a postural echo in order to do social interactions. If I am sleeping, somebody is talking standing, I'll not find it very interactive. So it is the result of the emotional contagion and the postural echo or the automatic mimicry. So when somebody talks to you and when somebody listens to you, they have a shared neural activation. The whole emotional intelligence concept has come from shared neural activation. From there we go for automatic mimicry because we are sharing each other, and so we try to mimic, do some kind of mimic to each other. And therefrom the emotional contagion comes up. That is, if you are expressing something, then I am also supposed to be affected by it. And through that, we develop some kind of emotion. So it starts with motor mimicry. It can be facial mimicry. It can be mimicry of the whole posture. It can be eye gaze. But therefrom, we actually get the autonomic mimicry. That is, our hormonal synchronization starts. Heart rate also goes accordingly. Our pupillary mimicry, blushing, everything starts automatically happening. And from there, the sense of emotional contagion comes up and we try to sense each other's emotion. Now, I'm close to my talk, but let me also tell you a very interesting feature. If mass panic is existing for a period of time, it may even lead to mass hysteria, and you will never get to know. Mass hysteria is something you must be remembering that Ganesh ji doodh pi rahe. Yeah, some river has turned sweet in Bombay. The photograph that you see is a school in Jammu where one girl started vomiting, everybody starts vomiting. The monkey man in Delhi, uh, people have started having this hysteria that probably the monkey man is coming everybody's house and scratching everybody or cutting this lady's braid. I mean, lot of such mass hysteria takes place because of mass panic. The reason is that unless the mass panic is finding an expression through certain abnormal behavior, it will also find some expression through mass hysteria. So it's very important how we control it. And this mass hysteria takes place when there is an unconscious sharing of thought process, when we all perceive risk, and when we believe that there is no personal control. So having no personal control doesn't matter because we actually then bank on God or negotiable fate. We are not even doing that. What we have been trying to do is keeping some kind of personal control, trying to look for some kind of alternative options, and then try to assess the situation. That causes this kind of panic. Pre-existing stress or willingness to be sick is another reason. So when mass hysteria takes place, everybody has the feeling to become sick. And if they become sick, then they develop similar kind of physiological, biological, psychological, and physical symptoms. Lack of trust in authority also is a reason. And then everybody thinks that, yes, somebody else is vomiting. Therefore, I should also be able to vomit because I have taken identical food or same shares of water. So these things actually happen in mass hysteria. Finally, finally, I would like to talk to you because this is so important that social media can actually exert emotional contagion. Let us be very, get some idea behind it. Why? Because suggestibility and collective whispering at the core behind it. If everybody is suggestible, what will happen? And everybody is suggestible, what is the drug? Today I find somebody who is an illiterate person is also talking about dexamethasone. They are saying that, Bauji, ye to bahut kam paise mein milta hai, kharid lo. What does it mean? It means they are suggestible to such an order that they can even come up to that kind of information. So let us be very careful about that kind of mass destruction rather than mass destruction. It's a form of mass destruction. In such case, our intelligence is lowered, our behavior becomes regressive, and our collective unconscious prevails in the process, and our shared anxiety creates mass panic and death anxiety. So your seminar is about death anxiety. Everybody feels that death is imminent. When you feel that the death is imminent, then you do certain behavior which is not considered to be a normal outcome. So the refugee outcome has also come up like this. Everybody everybody started fleeing the place. They all believe that let us flee this place, but where will they go? This pandemic is there everywhere. Now there is a reverse migration as well. So these are all because of the mass panic which is taking place. Some do's and don'ts finally, because I have talked about the academic part of it. Some of the things for the youngsters I would like to tell: do not obsessively check infection rate, and please avoid news fatigue. That's number one. I don't want to explain it further. Do not question uncertainty. If there is an uncertain condition, allow it to remain. You will get an answer. And do not go for an untested story. Somebody is saying that you take ginger, you would be okay, or you take hot water, you would be okay. Let us only follow one agency, either the government of India or the WHO, World Health Organization. Let us not follow anybody. Do not speculate too much about the future. Think about mindfulness. You must have gone through or read about it. Today is much more important than tomorrow. If you get a good morning, then you are born again. If you think too much about the past, about the future, you are actually losing precious time. So avoid making assumptions, and do not overwhelm your discussion on virus and avoid feeding in anxiety. Because the moment you discuss, you talk about virus, you talk about pandemic. And what really happens? We feed each other with the anxiety. And as a result of which, the collective anxiety goes up. So what you can do? Our gestures matter. Comforting gesture give us strength. Let us smile, even in pandemic. Allow positive thoughts. Otherwise, our body has to be at the burden. Any negative thought enters into your brain, as I said, will find an expression in some organ of your body. So allow only positive thoughts. Your words matter. Talk about danger, but in simple language. For children, it is very important. Let us not try to overwhelm children with the danger in order to make sure that they don't go out. Such a big mistake we have been making. And adhere to new normal. And this new normal is about hand washing, social distancing, your deep cleaning, and these are the new normal. We have to accept it, and let us follow this new normal and assist people to develop these habits. So let us smile, and thank you for smiling. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now could we begin the interactive session?
Yes, I have no problem.
I can't hear you. Yes, yes. So, participants, you are now requested, if you have any questions, to write the questions down using the chat box. Would you please do that? Yes. Any questions? We're waiting for questions. We've received a comment from Debaruti Dotto. Still a welcome. I'm going to share this comment with her and the other participants. She's saying that, sir, thank you for the wonderful talk. However, there is always a self and a rationality through which you have explained that. Yes. Yes, anybody wants to ask something? We are getting comments, but no questions.
Also,
Very, very insightful presentation, says Dr. Krishnapuri Roy.
I think you enriched us through your talk by showing how we can conceptualize the pandemic anxiety from neuroscience and neurocognitive perspective.
I'm not, I couldn't get you. Can you repeat what did you say?
So you enriched us through your talk by showing
Okay.
us how we can conceptualize the pandemic anxiety from a neuroscience or neurocognitive perspective.
Uh,
This
Actually, I had my prior experience to deal with pandemic anxiety because of my earlier position in government of India. After 26/11 in Mumbai attack, it was one of my tasks is to make sure that the pandemic anxiety goes down in the country. I mean, because there was a mass hysteria. Every child used to think that there would be a terrorist attack. So children were suffering like anything. So one of the job that I did was to stop that mass hysteria and how we can do that. Of course, in armed forces, we do many things, but that cannot be shared with you. But at the same time, let me tell you, being a professional in the field, we have certain responsibilities. Psychology as a subject matter has not become translational. And let me tell you, the uh, translational aspect of psychology is this. If we are only trying to be professional to do some kind of clinical practice or some kind of engagement with individual basis, then probably it will not go in a mass way. So you will not get any textbook on mass anxiety. You will not get any psychology of confinement anywhere. Therefore, my suggestion is that students who are interested in the field, getting this pandemic at their backdrop, because uh, we have lived our life. It's time for people to come up and deal with the situation rather than deal with the book. More often, as I found, being, look, I have spent 40 years in teaching. What I have found that we only talk about the theories, and 80% of the theories are based on only 20% of the human being. The kind of anxiety we are interested in, we are not getting it in the book. Therefore, we stop thinking about it. So let us stop thinking about it. And collectively, what we can do is something we can definitely do. If any person is interested, I'm ready to assist them as well.
Uh, Thank you, sir. We have a
Thank you.
question from Dr. Partho Malakar. He's
Yes.
asking, sir, please explain how emotional intelligence is linked to pandemic.
Emotional intelligence is a feature. Look, there are two aspects in psychology. Most of us, we deal with the deficiency aspect, very few we deal with the efficiency aspect. Emotional intelligence is something which is talking about our positive traits, or it's part of our positive psychology movement. The pandemic or emotional intelligence, the biology behind it is identical. That is, we transmit emotion through emotional contagion, through mirror neurons. Therefore, it is positive or negative, it will be transmitted because the brain doesn't know what kind of transmission is going on. So initially, your transmission or your emotional intelligence would be identical for both the things. But if you can transmit something positive, you are actually not benefiting yourself. You'll be benefiting a larger society or a larger section of the people. That's what we must understand. And this message go with some logic and science behind so that people realize what is the essence behind it.
Yes, sir. There's another question.
Yes.
How to overcome the negative thoughts?
The negative thoughts can be overcome in many ways. Most of us try to do yoga, meditation, this, that. We are trying to mask it actually. Masking is one technique. Neutralizing is another technique. De-intensifying is another technique. So there are many ways to which we can mask it or neutralize it. Question is, why we have to go for such kind of technique? If the control is with you, you do not have to, if you want to take control from pharmacology, then you can always go for that, but it has its own side effects and adverse effects. So to control anxiety, you have to follow certain procedure. Those procedures, of course, are not the purview of today's talk. Today's talk is only to tell you about that cohabitation anxiety, panic anxieties, all these are part of our normal spectrum of emotion. Normal spectrum. There's nothing abnormal about it. The moment you find that it's a normal behavior, and the moment you find that I am not the only person who is affected, everybody else is getting affected in the process, your own anxiety goes down. Therefore, instead of taking some additional measure to reduce it, your realization, insight, and awareness is much more important rather than trying to fight it out and win over anxiety.
There is a question from Orindam Bhattacharya, that how pandemic stress influenced the mentality of suicide.
Well, suicide is altogether a different thing, but people can always take advantage of any kind of stress in order to commit suicide. That is, you require a trigger. The people who are already under stress, they are 98% under stress. They want only 2% trigger. So pandemic can cause a trigger. Anything can cause a trigger. So in this case, the trigger becomes more important. But people fail to realize it is just not the trigger. The background anxiety, the background stress, which remain unchecked, actually becomes the real cause behind all these accidents. I would denounce any such behavior, because even suicide is also contagious. Since it is contagious, it can affect many people. I would suggest you to read books on suicide. I have my own book on suicide by Sage Publication. If you Google it, you will get it. All these things have been discussed in great detail there.
So there's a question from Dipanjana Chatterjee.
Yes.
Can you please throw some light on mirror neurons?
Okay. Mirror neuron, I can tell you, it's these setups of neuron are in the premotor area of the brain. If you can see me, it's somewhat like this. The experiment runs like this. Rizzolatti was doing some experiment in 1995. 1985, he was doing an experiment. What really happens when a monkey gets a peanut and takes it for mastication? So he found that the moment monkey gets a peanut, the motor neuron lights up. One day what happened? When Rizzolatti was entering into the laboratory, he found that there is a peanut lying on the floor, and the monkey was in the cage, and the electrode was placed with the monkey's brain. The moment he picked up the peanut from the floor, he found, surprisingly, that the monkey's motor area is lighting up. So that led him to develop this theory that when you see others, your corresponding brain area also lights up. That's the reason we find that if your kith and kin, somebody very close relative, is having headache and you are not getting headache, and if you are attached to one such machine, you will find that you are also getting the pain secretion, the release of certain hormones in the brain, which are basically related to your pain or pain alleviation. It is called placebo and nocebo effect. We all know about it. So this is related in that way. This is the experiment. And later V.S. Ramachandran in United States actually elaborated this theory and said that this inner imitation helps us to develop empathy. If you do not have that mirror neuron stimulation, then you develop sympathy. You do not get empathy. I hope I could answer you.
So I think we can take two more questions.
Sure.
is from Orijit De. His question is death anxiety happens only in pandemic situation? And is it not inherent in every living being?
Yes, it's if you are in the field of psychology, you will get to know life anxiety and death anxiety are part of our life. I mean, Eros and Thanatos are the two constructs that Freud has developed. Death anxiety is all part of us. We are all afraid of death, and some people can win over. That's a different issue. But death anxiety is not related to pandemic. Pandemic is just one trigger, which can actually augment our death anxiety. But let us not think that pandemic causes death anxiety. It's only a trigger.
And the last one from Chondrima Bhattacharya. Her
Yes.
question is there any relation with this pandemic stress with memory? As you say, the relation of it with cognition.
Of course, because if your pandemic anxiety remains, you would be using more glucose in the brain, and there will be less space for you to actually consolidate the available short-term memory to consolidate. So naturally, you will forget. It's a simple biology, because if you are under anxiety condition, you are using more glucose, energy for that. And if the brain is engrossed and engaged with that, you will get less chance to consolidate your memory. That's why when you are anxious, you always find that the door which is closed, you keep on seeing that door. You never see that few other doors are also open and you can actually make use of them. Therefore, our response rigidity comes because of this anxiety, which needs to get over. That's why I suggest you, instead of masking it or de-intensifying it, let us develop the insight behind it. Once the insight is there, then you will realize this is something which is going on in the population. It may not be natural, but everybody is anxious. It is a very, very natural event. Let us not consider it as unnatural.
Once again, thank you, sir. And sir, if participants have any further questions after this session, please contact you through email.
Yes, yes. I mean, if my email is with you, you can ask her or him to send me an email, I'll answer.
Thank you, sir. Sir, now I will ask Dr. Navamiti Chakraborty for telling the report.
Yes, thank you, Murmuti. Before moving on to the vote of thanks, I would just like to inform the participants that the feedback form has been given in the chat box, the link for the feedback form. Kindly fill it up and submit it, because it is connected to your receiving of the certificate for the program. Thank you. I will begin the vote of thanks by offering my very, very heartfelt thanks to our very esteemed and distinguished speaker of the session, Professor Manoj Kumar Mondol. His lecture has been more illuminating than any lecture on this topic would have been. It has been informative, insightful, and very, very interesting indeed. Apart from his very thought-provoking lecture, Professor Mondol must also be thanked for his very kind, patient, and cooperative stance during the entire phase of interaction with us, the organizers. Thank you very much, sir. Words really cannot express my deep gratitude for you. I would also thank our principal madam, Dr. Atushi Karfa, for a very kind support to our efforts, without which the program could not have been planned and made possible. Thank you, madam. I would take this opportunity to thank our IQSC coordinator, Dr. Shonchita Shen, for her continuous encouragement and very, very helpful suggestions. My departmental colleagues, Dr. Leena Nair Shengupto, Dr. Munmun Dotto, Shubhasri Bhattacharya, Neera Kasim, and Orunima Mitro all have extended very generous amount of support and cooperation for this event. Mr. Akash Mondol, our web developer, and Brain Drops had significant contributions in helping us overcome our technological challenges. Lastly, The overwhelming response from the participants has stolen my equanimity and left me struggling with my expression of gratitude. Uh, these few words really signify nothing. In fact, words are failing to express my deep indebtedness to all the participants for taking out their valuable time. We have our professor, university professor, Professor Preetha Mukhopadhyay with us. Thank you, madam, for coming and for attending this event. So the success of the program, I think, is in a way the gift of the participants to the department. That is all from my end. Thank you very much. Thank you all the people who have contributed in direct and indirect ways to the success of this program.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Privilege from my side. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. This is regarding the feedback form. There are
Yes.
some questions that needs to be, given after the second session. So what should I do? Both of the session, the questions are there. So how I can give the feedback on the second session right now?
Yes, ma'am, and there are few questions. I think question 3 or 4. It's on like disappointment.
Yes.
If you're not
Disappointment.
disappointed with
Yes.
any
The
of the session,
disappointment
how do
question
we
is
answer?
very confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Please,
actually, what to
please
do about?
suggest.
All right. Okay, the feedback form. There are some errors in the feedback form.
Ma'am,
Feedback form
actually,
again.
I have submitted it. I thought maybe this is the one. Maybe I have missed the other session. So, ma'am, if you could just cancel that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What is your
Thank you,
name,
ma'am.
please?
Thank you.
আমার
Reena
মনে হয়
Datta.
feed হ্যালো
RINA dot
হ্যালো
RINA Datta.
All right. All right. Rina
Yeah.
Datta.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. Fine. Thank you.
Navamita,
Thank you.
Navamita,
Ah,
I
hello.
think, ma'am, we have
yeah.
the next session tomorrow,
So,
right, at 4 o'clock.
Yes. Yes. At
Yeah.
4 o'clock. Yes.
Navamita, this is Krishna Koli.
Ah,
Yeah, just I just
ah,
want to inform you that Akash Babu has already written that he is again giving the feedback